And then after college, I went and I had different various jobs in sales and marketing, but I continued to buy real estate. To me, it was a great way to invest money and hedge against some of my other investments. But really, like, what turned me on the most about it, Corey, was that somebody else was paying the note.
Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What is going on, my party people? My name is Corey Boatwright. I am your host and founder of Real Estate Investing Profit Masters, our podcast series, and I am pumped, excited. I am jazzed about having our guest, Mr. David Dodge, on today out of St. Louis, Missouri. And he is a wholesaler out there. They also do some fix and flips. He has a company called House Sold Easy. And the guy has been doing investing for just about 15 years. I think it's around 14 to 15 years. Really interesting story that he is going to share with you today, and some of the great things that he's doing that's working. I tell you, the guy is on fire right now. Just recently finished a book, and so you definitely want to go and get that book. You'll have to listen to get the link, and you're going to love it. So you're going to get some great nuggets today and a lot of value adds. So make sure you are taking great notes. Speaking of taking notes on something, have you downloaded your Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quickstart Guide? Have you? The Down and Dirty Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quickstart Guide is available right now to you by texting the word profit to 38470. 38470, text the word profit, and it will automatically be sent to you. Also, if you're interested in learning how to wholesale real estate, we do over 100 deals a year. Great team, great system and processes in place. Do not recreate the wheel. Go to coryscoaching.com. I'll ask you a few questions. Watch a simple little 2-minute video and see if that's the right fit. All right. So here you go. Mr. David Dodge. David.
Hey, buddy.
What's going on?
How are you? I'm doing good.
Matt Damon in the house right now. I'm glad you turned into real estate. I think it's a smart decision, Matt.
That's right.
What's up, dude?
Hey, not a lot, man. Not a lot. Just trying to get organized here this morning. Got a couple deals in the pipeline that I'm trying to get closed this week. And yeah, man, just been working hard, focusing on getting some of my students their first deal, which is awesome. Just got our book published, and busy, dude. Busy. We have
the book. You got a book? You got a copy of the book next to you?
Yeah, right here. It's the Ultimate Guide to Wholesaling Real Estate. We just published this maybe about a month ago, give or take, and we've had a really, really good response.
That's awesome. So we'll talk about where you can get that. Put that in the show notes here. Thanks for taking the time to be on here. You and I connected really, I think, through Facebook in the beginning. And then we started talking about crypto stuff together. Then we got involved with some crypto together, which is interesting. Right. But the real estate has been the bonding element through this. And it's pretty funny now. Some people I work with out there in St. Louis, Jimmy, and that's when your stomping ground out there. You've known Jimmy for, I think, a while now, too. But I know other people out there in St. Louis too. Sean McCloskey is a good friend that's out there. I think McCall is pretty close to St. Louis or around Kansas City. Some of my students are out there as well, and so I love St. Louis. I love the Arch. My mom is a huge Cardinals fan.
Okay.
So it's just like, completely rage out Cardinals fan. So it's a 75-year-old woman that just goes nuts on Cardinals. So one of my kind of things to do is to take her out to a game. So maybe when I'm out there, I'll have I'll have to look you up. But man, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your business. Why don't you let everybody know kind of who you are and where you are kind of involved right now in real estate? What's your focus? Who that ideal client is?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is David Dodge. As we had mentioned, I'm out of St. Louis, Missouri. I've been investing in real estate full time for about 4 years. I've been investing in real estate total for about 15 years. But the first 10 years, I didn't know that you could buy properties at a discount. I was buying them, on the MLS with a real estate agent, typically a friend. I was buying properties that didn't need any work, and I was just renting these properties out.
Okay, you weren't a real estate agent though. You were an investor, you were an agent.
I'm not an agent. I never have been.
Yeah, me neither. Okay.
Yep.
I have them on my team though, right? You work with them on the team? Yeah, okay.
So I actually own a brokerage now, and I'm not an agent still, right? But going back, the first 10 years, I just had friends who were agents, and I'd have them help me locate properties. We'd go out and we'd find, good properties that we could rent out. And in the first 10 years, I bought about 10 properties, about a property a year. And about, 4 to 5 years ago, I realized that, there's a better way to go about doing this. And
okay, so you got started around like 2000, like maybe 4 or 5?
Yeah, 2004 actually. Okay. Or 2005 I think actually was the right day, because I was in college.
Yeah, okay.
And, you've probably heard people talk about this in the past, but I didn't even know what house hacking was when I got into real estate investing. But that was the first rental that I bought. I was in college. I borrowed money from my grandparents to put down as the 20%, and then I went and got a loan from the bank for the 80%. Yep. It was a 4-bedroom home at the University of Missouri in Columbia, where I went to college. And I rented out 3 of the bedrooms and lived in one of them. And my mortgage payment was like $60 a month because of the rent that I was collecting, offset it. So, I was basically living for free. Yeah. And then year number 2, I did the same thing again. I moved into a new house and got a new primary resident loan through a bank. And I did that 3 times in college. Nice. And then after college, I went and I had different various jobs in sales and marketing. But I continued to buy real estate. To me, it was a great way to invest money and hedge against some of my other investments. But really, like what turned me on the most about it, Corey, was that somebody else was paying the note.
Heck yeah.
Somebody else was paying it. So I often tell people, if you're in real estate long enough, I hate using the word guaranteed, but you're kind of guaranteed to create some wealth.
Yeah, I don't like the word.
Because somebody else is paying down your debt, so that's kind of the goal. But to speed things up, over like about 5 years ago, I started reading a lot of books about real estate investing. And I started realizing there's a lot of people out there that are not doing it the way I'm doing it. So
what books are you reading? Which ones?
Oh man, I've read like 300 books in terms of real estate. I've read every one. I've even read some of the ones you've published.
The courses, right?
Yeah. I've read them all, man. If they're on Amazon to be sold and they have real estate in the title, I own them.
Same day, man. Or eBay, right? Did you go on eBay and get courses?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've read them all, man. But what I found in the beginning of kind of doing my deep dive was that the people that were really successful in the business, they were buying properties at a discount. So if you're watching this video, my business, you can see behind me, is Discount Property Investor.
That's cool. I like
that. That's also the disposition side of my wholesaling business. So we have a coaching business that we use that, this name right here.
Right.
And what I did was I realized that, I didn't even know what wholesaling was, but I learned about it. And I learned about marketing, and I hired several coaches. Joe McCall was one of my first coaches. And he explained to me, hey, if you want to be a wholesaler, you were in the marketing business. Like, you're not really a real estate investor. Yeah. You become a real estate investor when you start rehabbing or you start owning these properties as a landlord, and you're in it for the long haul. But as a wholesaler, you're in the marketing business.
Yes.
And I ran with it. And for the last 5 years, I would say, I have not paid retail for a property. I've done over 300 wholesale deals.
Awesome.
And I just published a book. So yeah, man, I'm rocking
It right now, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, Joe's a great guy. Joe's been a part of our mastermind for a long time. He's been a part of other masterminds. And we actually talked about doing a podcast together. We did a couple episodes together, which was technology. It was what was it? Real estate technology. So we both like technology. And Joe's just a great guy, gives with his heart, smart guy. Really, in my opinion, one of the first guys that really started putting Podio out there for real estate investors. I mean, before
Podio Joe,
right? So he's been instrumental in a lot of different areas of investing, and just a really great guy. So he was a big influencer for you. Did you have a breaking point? You said you went to college, and was the real estate investing a distraction? What was your major? Did you
my major was finance with an emphasis in real estate.
Nice.
So I learned a little bit about it, but you know how college courses are, Corey.
Yeah.
You learn about real estate investing on like a massive scale.
Right.
You don't learn about buying a single family home and renting it out or flipping a property. It's all numbers in a textbook, and like a lot of it didn't really make sense to me, in terms of how I invest in real estate today.
Right.
So it was good to have those courses, of course. I was happy to get I was grateful to be able to go to college, and my grandparents, they helped pay for that, of course. But yeah, like what I learned in college had nothing to do with what I do now.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
It's so weird, to hear that. It's not uncommon, but it's weird when I hear it, because so much money is spent on different colleges, and especially some guys that go to Ivy League or girls go to Ivy League. And it's the common thing that keeps coming up more and more is that it was great. I learned some things, but I didn't use a lot of it for application. I really didn't learn much to be able to have an actual, business I can go and run. And so it just keeps coming up there, man. But obviously that's cool that you had emphasis in finance major in finance with emphasis in real estate, because you really did go into doing real estate. So you were in college and you went right from college into starting your own real estate business, or did you work other businesses before you?
No, man, I didn't. So I had other jobs for probably, I'd say 5 or 6 years, like in sales and marketing. And I did some traveling for a little while with the marketing company. I was doing business to business sales for Cintas Corporation. Everyone's heard of them. I was doing document shredding. I was doing storage. I was even doing like floor mats and like soaps and stuff for, restrooms and restaurants and whatnot. I did all kinds of different jobs in sales and marketing.
That's awesome.
But I've always been an entrepreneur, Corey. I've always had like a side gig, a side job. I shouldn't say job, a side business. And for the most part, I just decided after about 5 or 6 years of working that I just didn't like working for somebody else anymore, and I wanted to be my own boss. And then I opened up a web development company with a couple of my buddies, and we did some web development and some marketing. And then probably about 4 years ago is when I took the plunge and I went full-time into real estate. And I started out just doing wholesaling. That was my main gig. Again, I had hired Joe to help me get my feet wet and to do my first couple deals. And, since then we've branched out. We still have a wholesaling business, and we're in the St. Louis market. We just do our own market. We don't have any virtual thing going on at this point.
Yep.
And we're averaging about 8 deals a month.
Great, man.
And then we've branched off since then. So, in the last about maybe 2 years, we've started rehabbing properties quite heavily. We have anywhere from 5 to 10 rehabs going at any time. I think right now I have 7 going. And then we own about 40 rental properties. I say me and my 2 business partners.
Okay.
And we own about 40 rentals. Our goal is to get to 150.
That's
and
awesome.
Then at that point, we'll each have about 50 of our own, at that point too.
150 by what time, David?
2 years. So I'd say by the end of 2021.
2020. That's great. Okay, cool. Are you looking at
2.5 years, I would say, but yeah.
Yeah. Are you looking at wholesaling as kind of your gateway to building up that portfolio?
Absolutely, Corey. I'm glad you brought that up. We have a motto here at my company, and it goes, keep the best, sell the rest. So wholesaling to us is really just a means to an end. You know, wholesaling is a job. And if you're new to real estate investing and you're new to wholesaling, you will know wholesaling is time intensive. It costs you money in terms of marketing, or it costs you time in terms of, you know, doing a time budget for cold calling and door knocking and bandit signs and all that type of stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, wholesaling is a job. And we cherry pick those wholesale deals for our rehabs or our wholesales. And then we, of course, cherry pick the rental properties that we want. So my goal, you know, my ultimate goal is $100,000 a month passive income.
Yeah, man.
And right now I'm at about 7,000 or 8,000. So I'm doing okay. I got a ways to go though.
Yeah.
But I want to get to 100,000 a month in passive income. And there's no way to possibly do that wholesaling. You have to get income that's passive.
Constant turn. It starts over again at the end of the month. That's one of the reasons that, you know, I started looking into, into multifamily, right? Is to having, you know, so many units to be able to have some of that passive income coming in, along with also being silent partner in other businesses. But the name of the game is basically having that money work for you. And, you know, having rental properties is a great way to do it. I had up to 60 rental properties at one point before I went through a bunch of stuff that I went through with a divorce and a bunch of other stuff. I don't recommend that. You lose about half your properties. But you know, the passive part of this business really has to do with you getting a new mindset of you're not going to be the one that has to go and do the business to make the business run all the time, and all of the effort and everything's up to you. You know, you don't have to go knock the doors. You don't have to go sign up the contracts. You don't have to go find the buyers. You don't have to do all that stuff. The team that you have that you can put together can go do those things, and you can really start focusing on, the book like Traction, where you're either the integrator or the visionary, and you can get real clear on that. Like you said, with your partners, I would guess that one person's more visionary, more person's more the integrator, and how you guys set that up. And there's not one way, is not one person not better than the other, but definitely when you have two integrators, then there's not enough growth that happens with the business. You just stay at a certain place, and it's everybody's just getting stuff done, but no one's getting creative to grow the business. But if you have too many visionaries, right, then nothing's getting done. It's all these grand ideas, but there's no application and execution on the ideas. So that's what's one thing right now that's working in your business right now that we call your profit master strategy, your profit master investing strategy. What's something that's really working well that's giving you some leverage in your business?
You know, our rental properties are doing really, really well. So we try to do in-house property management where we hired a girl in our office, and, you know, we're doing rehabs already. So the maintenance is pretty easy for us to handle. But it just really wasn't working out very well in-house. So we kind of outsourced it to a really small outfit. It's two folks. It's a guy and his assistant.
Oh, okay.
And they only manage about 130 properties, 30 of which are ours. And they only want to get to 200. That's it. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
And he's not taking on any more clients. And we've essentially said, we want to add 70 more to you. So we've got a really good thing going with our property manager. Can you disclose, like, is it between 5 and 10% of the management fee of the rents? Yeah. So I'd love to talk about that. So we pay 8%. However, okay. So here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. And Corey, you hopefully you know this, but Typically between 50 and 70% of all profits made by a property manager comes in the markup of services. It's not in the actual management fee. It's whenever you have to turn a property or you have a maintenance call, they're going to either do the work themselves or they're going to outsource it to somebody and then they're going to mark it up. So consider about half of your fees that go to a property manager. They're not even in management fees. They're just in additional fees, or I shouldn't say that. They're not in the monthly management rate. They're just in fees that just come throughout, right? So what we've done is we've negotiated with our property manager that we'll pay 8%. We're happy to pay that, which isn't necessarily like a killer rate, but it's a fair rate. 8 to 10% is pretty standard.
Yeah.
However, any maintenance that happens, it goes through him, but we are the contractor. Okay. So he's not outsourcing that to different people to do it. It just comes to us. And then we send one of our guys that we're already paying, 10, 12, 14 bucks an hour to go handle those service calls. So it cuts down a ton on the cost of the maintenance. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So, but in return, because we're taking money out of his pocket on the maintenance side, what we do is we allow him to be the leasing manager. So when he leases a property, he takes 3/4 of the first month's rent as his fee. And, sometimes he'll show it twice and he'll get a tenant and boom, but sometimes he has to go there, 5, 10 times to do it. So he has a profit center on the management, of course, at 8%, which really is just collecting rents, chasing people down, making sure that, everything is running smoothly. We handle the maintenance, and then last but not least, he handles the leasing. So we've got a really good thing going with him. And with 40 properties, our average cash flow is about $250 a property.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're doing pretty well on that. Ideally, we want to get to over 100. Our goal is 150. We're at about 40 today. So we're rocking, man. We're doing good with it. But that's one thing that we're really focusing on right now is just like our goal is to buy one a week and essentially turn one over a week. So we're using the BRRR strategy. And for all your listeners and viewers that aren't familiar with BRRR, it's so simple, guys. It's B with a couple R's behind it. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and then last but not least, repeat. So the strategy that we use, we have a couple different banks that we work with. And these banks, they give us between 75 and 80% of the appraised value. So I'm going to repeat that because this is very, very important.
Yeah, appraised.
They give us between 75 and 80% of the appraised value. Now, whenever I first got started in this business, banks would lend me between 70 and 80% of the purchase price. And they may or may not account for the repairs. But after you get up to maybe 20 or 25 properties, the relationship that you carry with your bank becomes stronger. And they no longer care about what you bought it for and how much money you put into it. They just want to see that it appraised for X, and they will lend you roughly 80% of that. So whenever you go from the point in time, whenever you're getting loans for 80% of the purchase price compared to 80% of the appraised price, it's a whole different ball game. Okay. So the bank, in order for us to have them lend on 80% of appraisal, they just want to see that we've improved the property by at least $10,000 to $15,000.
Yeah.
So we have to submit, our repair invoices, paid invoices to the bank, but they no longer care what we bought it for. So why does that matter? Well, it's very important because if I can go out and I can buy a property at 60 cents on the dollar, and then I got to put another 20 cents on that dollar into it, I'm all in at 80% of what it should appraise for. So what that means is with the BRRR strategy, I can go refinance every single nickel out of that property. So out of the 40 properties that we have now, we probably only have about $15,000 total invested in those 40 properties, because occasionally some of these properties we might have to leave 2,000 or 3,000 in.
Right.
But there are scenarios, which is kind of hard to believe, where we'll walk with $5,000.
Yeah.
We'll buy a property, we'll renovate it, we'll get it leased, and we'll be into it for less than 80%. But the bank will say, hey, we'll give you an 80% loan on the appraisal, and we'll actually walk with some money. So that's kind of rare. It's more, it's more few and far between, but there are scenarios that happens. So the goal for us is to get to 150 properties and have zero of our own money invested in.
I love it, man. And what kind of amortization schedules that you're using right now? Because you say you're getting 250.
Yeah, we're doing all commercial loans with the 20-year amort.
Okay.
We're staggering between a 3 and 5 year terms. However, none of these loans. So for one, I'm going to back up real quick. All of the loans that we're getting are from small local banks. Okay, we're not walking into Bank of America or U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, so on and so forth, because you cannot build a relationship with a bank that is that large.
Right.
So our goal is to find banks that have anywhere between maybe 3 to 15 branches.
Yeah.
Okay. If they have over 15, doesn't mean that they're not a good bank. If they have under 3, doesn't mean they're not a good bank. The sweet spot, for whatever reason, is between 3 and 15 branches. They're growing typically.
Yep.
And if I need to talk to the president of the bank, I can call them up on their cell phone, right?
Yep.
Or I can email them. I have the contact information of that individual. So if I, for example, get an appraisal that's low and I need to argue my way up a little bit, so I'm not leaving $8,000 in the property and I only leave in 2, I just send an email. And usually it's like, okay, approved. No big deal. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, because you got 40 deals with them or 20.
Got 40 deals with them already, right? And we're scattered amongst about 3 different banks right now. You don't want to be too leveraged on just one bank.
Sure.
But anyway, I circled back to talk about the fact that we're using these smaller banks. But the reason I did that is because these banks are lending what's called portfolio lending. They're lending on their own assets. They're not taking these notes that they're creating, these mortgages, and selling them off. Now, the big banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, if you go get a mortgage with them, it's very likely that after 2 to 5 years, that mortgage gets sold off in the secondary market to another bank. Well, we don't want that. The reason is because when we go to renew our loans at the end of these 3-year terms or these 5-year terms.
You're talking about balloons that you have on there.
Well, they're not balloons. And that's what I'm going with this, Corey. So there's a difference.
They're not adjustable rates, or they are?
No. Hear me out. So they're fixed rates, but they adjust either at the 3 or the 5-year mark, but for another 3 to 5 years. So here's
so they renew at whatever.
Yeah. So here's the beautiful thing. Whenever you hear somebody talk about a commercial loan, let's say it's a 5-year loan with a 20-year amortization.
Yeah.
90% of these loans, 95% of the loans that are out there, they balloon, like you had mentioned. It's a 5-year term, even though it's amortized over 20 years, but it balloons. So that means that after the 60-month term, you are required to go back to that bank or another bank and go get another loan. Well, the problem with this is that your amortization starts all over.
Yes.
And I do not believe in amortization starting over. Okay.
Right.
So when you're working with these smaller banks that have what we call portfolio loans or portfolio lending, meaning they're lending off of their own assets, when that 3 or that 5-year term expires, the loan does not come due. It's not a balloon. Instead, what they do is they call it a renewal.
Mm-hmm.
And they charge anywhere from $50 to maybe $300. And they do what's called a desk review or a BPO on that property. Okay.
Right.
And then what they do is they will issue you an additional 3 to 5 year term. However, your amortization does not reset.
Yes.
So if I do a 5-year note on a 20-year amort, and I get through 5 years and I go back to my bank and I say, hey, let's renew this for 5 more years. Well, of course, my interest rate will adjust because that's how the bank makes their money. So they're going to say, okay, hopefully it'll adjust down, but most of the time it won't. It'll adjust up a little bit, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm back into another 5-year term, but I'm going on year 6 of my amortization table versus starting all the way over at year 1. So anybody that's using the BRRR strategy, that is not going to small banks and getting portfolio loans that renew, keyword there, is doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great
if you are
point.
refinancing these every 3 to 5 years and you are starting over on your amortization table, you will never, and I repeat myself here, you will never pay them off. It won't happen.
Yeah.
You have to renew these loans and keep that amortization steady.
Great point, David. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because there's other fees that are involved whenever you do reset those on balloons. But one other thing that I did I don't know if you've asked a bank to do it or not, but it was basically just from asking. Same thing, but not with the president, vice president of the bank. Basically went in and said, I don't know if your county assessor values are higher than your appraisal values, but what I did is said, to save the bank money, because the bank has to pay for those appraisals, if the county assessed value is higher than what I think the appraisal value is, are you okay with just using the county assessed number? And for a few of the properties, the vice president was fine with doing that. So that was actually just one question that I asked. And that thing saved me several thousands of dollars, because sometimes the county has the numbers really skewed, in my favor, right? But some other times, if I got the appraisal, then I knew I was gonna, I knew it was going to be a better situation. But just before I forget, one thing that if you haven't done that you might ask is about that. If the county assessed value is higher than the appraisal, can you go off the county assessed?
Yeah, I've never heard that before, but that seems like a great tip, though.
Yeah, and it was basically one question, and it was approval. Like you said, if you have the decision makers, they'll either say yes or no. But it saves them money whenever you don't have to. They don't have to go do that, and they typically think that the assessed value is lower than the appraisal. But just being
in my market, I feel like the assessed value is always like a third of the appraisal. But I'll have to look into that, Corey. That's actually a really, really good piece of advice.
Yeah, check that out and just.
I'll look into that. That's a great idea. I love that.
What books did you? Because you said you read a lot of books. You went through. Some courses. What was a book that really made a difference in your life for real estate investing? You want to share?
Yeah. So as everybody says, the first book that I read that was like eye-opening was the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I read that a couple times, but then I want to really expand on this for a second, Corey, because I had a college professor. Again, I went to the University of Missouri in Columbia, Mizzou, here in Missouri. And one of my finance professors was obsessed with Robert Kiyosaki. Wow. And he had basically asked and begged some more to the university for them to put in place a financial course that was basically brought off the principles of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And by the time I was there, they had this course. So I took it. So in this course, we actually read Rich Dad Poor Dad as a class. And then after every, day's lecture or chapter, we would discuss.
Wow.
So that was really, really cool to kind of break the book down and spend a whole semester on the principles and ideas behind that book. And it was really cool because the professor was a real estate investor. And he owned about 50 pieces of rental property in Columbia, where the university was at. And every month he would bring in his pay stub from the university, and he would say, "Where are we mailing this to donation today?" Because he didn't need the money from the job. Wow. He had enough passive income that he was going to live off of that. So every month he would come in and he would say, "Who's got a charity this month?" And we would sign over his pay stub to a charity and mail it off. It was the coolest thing. But it really went deep with me, because it was like, man, this guy's doing this as a passion, as a hobby, wow. But his income really comes from real estate investing. And that's when I went and bought that first house and started that house hacking.
I never heard anything like that before, man. That's amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then again, I read a ton. Any book that is real estate related. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I have never read a book that is real estate related that I haven't got at least a couple little nuggets of gold out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's really not necessarily one that I like over the others, but the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Oh, nice. Best ever. I haven't got that one yet. Joe Fairless.
Look how freaking thick it is, dude.
Yeah, that's a big one there.
It is a freaking, it's the Bible it's so thick, but it's good. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm going to check that one out. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah.
But of course, yeah. So then we just published our own book as well, Corey, just because, we found that there was kind of a hole in the market for wholesaling specific. There's only a couple books out there. Dan Merrill has the Bible. He's got that one. And then there's a couple other people that have one. But there wasn't like 40 books. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
On wholesaling. There was maybe like 6 or 8.
Right.
And we just saw, you know what? There's a good opportunity here to be a little bit more niche on real estate investing. Because, we could talk about real estate investing for days, weeks. There's a million ways to invest in real estate.
Yeah, dude, I love to read your book. I'm a huge avid book reader. I'm just finished a recommendation. This one, have you seen this one? It's called, it's actually has a 4 by Tony Robbins. It's called The Keys to the Vault.
I have not.
Roland Fraser, recommended by Keith Cunningham. Infinite Banking, which is Become Your Own Banker. This one's, I just finishing up. I'm always reading or listening to Audible. And I think reading is massively, massively important. It's one of the most, it's common traits with most successful people that do big things in life. They always like to read because you get a chance to get all the best, information from people that they want to share the things that really impacted them or share stories. And I just feel like it's hacking. I feel like it's hacking knowledge.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it is. So, really all of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series of books or Robert Kiyosaki's books, like Cash Flow Quadrant, I think might be one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah.
Because that really breaks down, the difference between self-employed entrepreneur and a business owner and an investor. And that's a really, really good one as well, too. Yeah. But there's so many of them out there.
That's awesome, man. I want to read your book too, and I want to find out.
Yeah, I'll mail you a copy, Corey. Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to find out where we can get a copy of your books. I know people listening right now, they really want to check out your book. So I want to get a link from you where they can go to get it in a second. I want to ask you a couple more questions if that's fine.
Sure.
What's your favorite motivational quote? I always ask this question for my guests.
Dude, I got a couple of them. So number 1 is Relentless. Have you read Relentless?
It's a recommendation, but I haven't read it yet. So I'm gonna write it down again. So, yeah, what was the quote in Relentless you liked?
So Relentless is by Tim Grover. And here's the thing about Relentless. So Tim Grover is a sports nutrition coach, and he's coached everybody that's anybody, like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, so on and so forth. Now, I like sports, but I'm not a huge sports fan. That's just not me. So, but what I liked about this book is, all of these people that he's coached that have become the greatest of the greats, right? They all have something in common, and that is they are relentless when it comes to doing what they do. And that book is just top notch in terms of like getting you pumped up and motivated. And it's just kind of cool to hear about some of these routines that these athletes went through and that, he coached them through. So Relentless is my number 1 favorite book in terms of, motivation and just kind of getting you going. Another one that I just read like literally last week was by Jesse Itzler, and it's called Living with a Seal.
Oh yeah. Jesse Itzler. Right?
Itzler. Yeah. Yep. And it's called Living with the Seal. I just finished that book about a week ago. And it's about David Goggins, who is the Navy SEAL. And he's an ultra marathoner and just amazing individual. So as soon as I finished that book, Corey, I immediately went and I bought David's book, David Goggins' book called Can't Hurt Me. And I'm about halfway through that. And I'll tell you, Corey, this is some crazy stuff because I work out, 2 to 3 times a week on average. And since I started reading the book, Living with a Seal, and now Can't Hurt Me. I've been running like 4 to 5 miles a day for like the last 2 weeks straight. It has motivated the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So I got a couple for you. So Relentless, one of my favorites. Living with a Seal, great book. And then Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. But if you're going to read the last two, I'd recommend reading Living with a Seal first.
Yeah. Before
you read the David Goggins one, because it explains who this guy is without much. Like, it's very 10,000 foot, and it'll really, really intrigue you. So yeah, I like those a lot.
So those books are. Do you have any motivational quotes that you really like that have really impacted you? Like anything that like a mantra?
Yeah, not necessarily from those books. My favorite quote of all time is consistent, persistent action. That's it. That's the whole quote. That's it.
Who's it by?
I truly believe. I'm not even sure exactly where I got that from, but I truly believe that you can be successful in anything. Let's take it off of real estate for a second. You can truly be successful in anything at life if you are consistently, persistently acting towards that goal. So consistent, persistent action. And that's like my life motto. Like whenever I was like, oh, I want to write a book like 18 months ago, I was like, that'll never happen, right? And then I just thought, well, if I can consistently just be a little bit persistent about this, maybe every day put in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or every week put in 2 hours. Eventually I'll get it done. And boom, 18 months later, I got a book, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do things overnight. It just means you have to consistently be persistent about them.
That's awesome, man. I was looking to see like on Google here if there's a quote that we could who said that, but there's a lot of different kind of versions of it. But that's great. I love that, man. I agree too. Whenever I was knocking doors in the Oklahoma 100-degree sun in June, for Kirby selling home cleaning systems, I would knock 100 doors and to put on 3 demonstrations and to sell one $1,600 vacuum cleaner. And it was funny when you get to like door 20 or 30 or 40 and you have so many people rejecting you and so many. It's that point right there where you have to do 3 times as more to get one sale. And at that one point is when most people quit. When they realize that now I have to do not double, but triple of what I just went through, and even harsher rejection to get to the light at the end of the tunnel, to get to the result you want. And most people just give up too soon. They give up and they're 3 feet or, in this example, probably 20 feet from gold. But just taking what it takes to persist through all of that objection, through all of that conflict, through all of those things that come up and challenges to get to the result. And like you said, consistent, persistent action. It isn't just thinking it. It isn't just coming up with the strategy and putting this framework together. It's actually getting out there, knocking the doors in this example, getting yelled at, getting told you're the scum of the earth and get off my porch and I can't stand people like you and just all of that stuff. And finding a way to smile through it, finding a way to learn through it, because I always talk about if you fail, you actually succeed if you learn from it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's the most important thing, man. Do you have any like favorite mobile apps that's changed your life? Like do you use mobile apps on a daily basis in your business?
In my business, I can't say that I do. Like, I've used a lot of them in the past. Whenever we were doing heavy on bandit signs, we were using an app to track that. I can't remember off the top of my head what that was called. I've used the Driving for Dollars app in the past.
Yeah.
But I don't use any of that stuff today. One thing that I have been really focusing on recently is putting together a good dashboard. Because it's very, like, one of the things I just think all investors, Corey, not even real estate investors, all investors struggle with is having a good dashboard, specifically real estate investors, though.
Yeah.
If you ask somebody, what are your KPIs? Well, first, most of the questions are, what does that mean? And if they do know what it means, they're like, oh, we have a rough idea.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know how many letters you're sending to get a call, and how many calls you're getting to get an appointment, and how many appointments you're getting to get a contract, and how many contracts you're getting to get a deal?
Yeah.
And then break all that stuff down to a cost, And I'll be honest, as of right this second, I don't know my numbers exactly, but I'm making a constant effort to focus on that and drill it down. And one of my good buddies, Chris Arnold, out of Dallas, Texas. I don't know if you know Chris. He actually lives in Tulum. But he's been kind of coaching me a little bit lately on setting up these dashboards. He uses a software called Clipfolio.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've been using Clipfolio now as well. And it just pulls data from all over the web, like wherever you want, whatever softwares you're using. If you're using Podio, if you're using CallRail, if you're using CallFire, if you're doing RVMs, if you're doing whatever, it'll pull all that data into one centralized dashboard. And then from there, you can then break down your numbers. And again, I've been really focusing a lot lately on that. So Clipfolio would be the app or website that I would, to answer your question, that I am using. But other than that, no other apps per se.
Okay. Like Dropbox or
of course, we use Dropbox and Google Drive. Yeah, we use those two. It's a good point. I overlooked those because those are pretty common. But yeah, we use Google Drive and Dropbox for photo sharing. We use Podio for our CRM. We also subscribe to REI Blackbook, which is a St. Louis company. Damon Remy, good buddy of mine. So we actually don't use REI Blackbook as a CRM. We use it as a marketing machine. It's got a really, really great tool for putting your properties up on websites and adding and removing those properties, as well as emailing and text blasting your buyers list. So it's kind of funny. We use Podio as our CRM. It's kind of our catch-all. And then we use REI Blackbook to market those properties, right?
I like it.
Furthermore, we use Right Signature because it syncs up with Podio via Globiflow to send our offers with maybe about 45 seconds and 8 clicks. So we've built that into Podio, which is really cool too, because we can send offers from there. But then when those offers get signed, they go back into Podio, and they will notify you, and you can create tasks and certain things that come off of that. So it's really, really, really cool.
Yeah. Podio is obviously, we use Podio, customized kind of, you can do a lot of cool things with inside of Podio. And there's a lot of great, there's RealFlow, there's REI Blackbook. There's a lot of different CRMs out there for your choosing on which ones you like. The challenge is whenever you use one for a while and then switching over can be
that's a pain
for the people, your team and stuff. So just do a really good job of investigating which ones you like and why you like them. Go back to your comment about dashboards. Clipfolio is a good one. A couple other options is Plecto. If you ever heard of Plecto.
I've heard of them. Yep.
Plecto is one that's it's got a little bit more graphics. You can add a few more charts to it that Clipfolio is lacking right now, in my opinion. I tested out Clipfolio as well. And then one CYFE, what I call it Syfy, but it's actually the least expensive, all of them. Not as pretty, but does a dang good job. It's like 10 or 15 bucks a month. It's CYFE.com. But Plecto is one that we're leaning more towards right now, especially as you start getting team members in. You can create these dashboards where they're shareable. It's not just one person, not just the CEO of your company or whatever. So
sure.
That's cool, man. I love that. Clipfolio is a great tool. And some of these have mobile apps and some of them don't. So make sure you look at that too. Because, we're pretty much mobile, and most of the tools that are created now, they're being created for people to use them on their phone, use them on their iPads, because laptops are becoming more and more, not needed, to be able to do all the functions, especially if it's web-based applications, which I would say, 80% of stuff that you do is most of it's web-based application.
Right.
Good stuff, man. That's good. So going back to what's maybe a lesson that you've learned in wholesaling that you like to share? That's maybe one big thing that really sticks out to you that you'd like to share with someone that's new, getting started.
Yeah. So this business is all about follow-up. I mean, it really is. So on average in our business, we've done over 300 deals in the last 3 years, actually closer to 4 years, I would say. We're averaging 8 to 10 deals a month. And the reason that we can do 8 to 10 deals a month is because we are persistently following up with our individuals. So on average, from the time that we first contact a motivated seller to the time that we get that under contract is 4 to 6 months. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't go out and one call close somebody. I do that all the time. Okay. But on average, it takes 4 to 6 months to go out and, get that property under contract and then sold for a wholesale fee. So, one thing, I'm going to take a step back. We were talking a little bit about CRMs, Corey. And how you have all these different options with CRMs. We use Podio and REI Black Book. You had mentioned a couple others like Real Flow. Yeah. Infusionsoft is a good one. I mean, there's 100 of them, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's only 2 things that really matter with a CRM. 2 things, okay? 1 is your notes, and 2 is your tasks. That's it. So, I know some people that have CRMs that are so basic that I look at them and I laugh, but they're doing just as many deals as me. Yeah. Now, my CRM is pretty robust. We have about 400 different Globy flows, which just mean automations that we've built into Podio. Yep. We've spent years working on it, and we're constantly tweaking things, right? But at the end of the day, those automations, all they really do is save you a little bit of time. Yep. What really matters is that you take good notes on what's going on with the property, what's going on with the seller, when you last talked to them, and what offer you're going to make. I mean, that's really it. All right. You can dive deep and get granular with all that stuff. But at the end of the day, just keeping good notes is very, very, very important. And then last but not least is
again, David, so people are probably taking a little notes.
Yeah, of course. So just like what's going on with the property. So, that could be like, how old's the roof? Does it need a kitchen? Does it need a bath? Does it need landscaping? So just all things with the property, right?
Right.
And then you want to keep notes on all things with the seller. Like what's going on with the seller? Like are they in trouble with the law? Do they just have somebody die in the family? Like, just kind of keep some basic general notes about what's going on with them.
Yep.
Okay. And then it's just some notes about the property in your offer. Like, I think the ARV for properties in the area are about X, and this one's pretty similar, and it needs X amount of repairs. So my offer is going to be in this range, right? So those are just your notes. But you want to make sure that you update those notes every time that you either reach out to that individual or that you speak to them. So if I just call somebody and leave them a voicemail, I'm going to go into my CRM and I'm going to say, hey, I left them a voicemail at 11:41 a.m. and make a note of that, right? That way, whenever you finally get them on the phone, you can pull up your notes and say, hey, Corey, I've been trying to reach you for 2 months and I've left you 6 voicemails and I've sent you 16 text messages. Where you been?
Right. Yeah.
And then that way you have something to talk about. That way you can keep that conversation flowing. But then last but not least, I had mentioned earlier, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that you're using that, not to interrupt your flow here, but I love that you said that you use that as a conversation point. You use that as that. Sometimes you get on there's nothing to kind of talk about besides you think money or whatever, but you're using that as a conversation of hey, I've been following up with you. I've been wanting to reach you.
I use it as a tool to give them guilt.
Yeah.
Because here's, I have a buddy, Steve Trang. You know who Steve Trang is, Corey?
Yeah. Steve.
No worries if you don't. So Steve's got this. He's out of the Arizona market, and I just did a podcast with him a couple of days ago on my podcast. But he's got this really cool thing that he does. It's called the perfect seller appointment, And he says that sellers, they lie, they cheat, they steal. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, they lie to you because they just want they just want you to think that you're the only person looking at the property. They steal your time because they come out and they want to get all the information from you.
Yep.
And then they cheat because they tell you that, and this is also lying, but they tell you, oh, we'll be in touch. And then they go into what he likes to call the witness protection program, where you have unlimited access to their voicemail. But right? And then they think that you're rude when you call them from a different number and you catch them, right?
Right.
And they're like, well, I've been trying to avoid you. Well, yeah, you have been. What the hell? This isn't fair. And so anyway, Steve's got a really, really good thing that he does on the perfect seller appointment. But I think it's great because, if you can keep those notes going, and then you can kind of call the seller out like, oh, man, I've been trying to reach you. Like, I'm just trying to help you, right? Why haven't you been returning my calls? It kind of puts them on the spot. And I usually will follow up, but I'm not trying to be rude or abrasive. Those are the two things I don't ever want to be.
Sure.
But what I do want to do is let them know that I am here to help them. And it's like, if you want me to quit calling you, just tell me. Tell me right now. And when you put somebody on the spot like that, they're typically not going to say, quit calling me. I mean, it's happened many times. But typically they say, oh, no, you're right. I get it. You're just trying to help. And I'm just following up. How are we doing on my offer, for example?
Right.
So those are just some tools and some tips that we use to help with that. But, so the first part was notes. Notes are very, very important. But the second part is tasks. And all CRMs have the ability to do these two things, guys. You can type in notes and you can create a task. So what is a task? Why is it important? It's very, very important because if I'm working 7 leads, let's say, and I need to make sure that I call each of these people every week, it's not going to be impossible for me to remember in my brain or on a piece of note paper to call these people back. Right. But when you have 2,700 leads that you're working, which in our case we do, we have over 3,000 leads in our system, just over 4 years of time. Everybody will get there at one point. But there's no way in hell that you will possibly remember 2,700 of these individuals and when you're supposed to call them back. Right. So you create these tasks in your CRM to just say, hey, follow up with this guy in 2 weeks. And then in 2 weeks, you're going to get an email or a notification or whatever you want, however you set it up, to remind you that it's time to follow up with that person again. So, I think the point that I'm trying to illustrate here is it doesn't really matter what CRM you use. Some of them are going to have bells and whistles for certain things. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's important are those two things: good notes and good tasks to follow up. That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you simplified it, Dave, and I agree that we can complicate things so much.
Wholesaling is easy. Wholesalers are difficult.
That's so true. Yeah, that's an easy way.
That's a Joe McCall quote right there.
It's true.
Wholesaling is easy. It is. This business is so simple. Human beings make it difficult.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, we always try to overcomplicate everything in life.
We do.
At the end of the day, what is wholesaling? It's marketing to motivated sellers. It's putting properties under contract. It's connecting them with cash buyers, and it's closing. That's it. That's the whole business. There's nothing else to it.
And it's simplified. We call ABC wholesaling, right? So the owner, I don't like calling them sellers because there's only one owner and there's multiple sellers. So I like to call them owners. But owner is A, B is you, the wholesaler, and C is the in-cash buyer. And ABC. So there's easy understanding is this: you find a deal for $50,000, you find somebody else that wants the deal for $80,000, you make $30,000. That's the simplest version of it. Now, if you unpack all the other stuff that goes into it, that's where it can start to get complicated and more granular to
sure. And that's okay. And every deal is going to have, a curveball, or it's going to require some additional work, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But don't worry about that stuff until you start doing the basics, which is just marketing and finding that motivated seller, so on and so forth.
Awesome, David. So do you get 8 hours of sleep, my man? You're recently married.
I don't have any children, Corey, so I do. I probably get closer to 9 or 10. Man, I love my sleep.
That's awesome, man. I have 2-step kids, so when you have some kids, you'll probably change that potential a little bit. What's your morning routine look like?
So I typically I didn't work out this morning, but I typically try to work out in the morning before I get going.
Got a trainer or no trainer?
I do have a personal trainer, but I don't work out with him in the morning. I work out with, so I have a personal trainer for boxing.
Oh, cool.
I'm not I don't compete. I'm not into that. I just like the sport of boxing versus going and lifting weights. It's more fun to me. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go do mitts with my trainer for 45 minutes. And then every morning I try to either go for a walk or a jog or, do something around the home. I have an elliptical bike or a stationary bike and an elliptical. I hop on those occasionally. So I try to get a 30 to 45 minute workout in the morning. And then what I'll typically do is I'm not really into meditation all that much, but I do like to visualize, which I guess you could say kind of go hand in hand. But I usually like to spend at least 5 or 10 minutes in the morning just visualizing, what my life is going to look like in 6 months, what my life's going to look like in 6 years, what my day is going to look like. And I just feel like that visualization, and again, it doesn't have to be for an hour. I mean, I usually will only spend sometimes 3 to 5 minutes on this. But I'll just sit and, eyes open, eyes closed, however I'm feeling that morning. And I just try to visualize in my brain, what my life is going to look like in the future. And that future could be at the end of the week or it could be the end of the decade. It just every day is a little different, but I really like to.
It's huge.
I like to visualize. I think visualization is huge. And then from there, I usually head into the office or I start running appointments, so I have a wholesale business. We have 2 acquisition managers, a disposition manager, a closing coordinator, 2 virtual assistants, and 2 partners. So we have a pretty big team. And the reason that I don't
lay out your team again. So you got 2.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So let's start at the top. It's myself and my 2 business partners. And then we have staff. So that staff consists of a closing coordinator. It consists of 2 acquisition managers. And then we have a disposition manager.
Yep.
And then we have 2 virtual assistants.
And then two VAs. So essentially you've got 6 people in your group, and then 2 partners.
And 2 partners, yep. So the reason that we've structured the business the way that we have is because it's very difficult to operate a wholesaling business and also have 5 to 10 rehabs going and also add a rental a week by yourself. It's very difficult. So I've essentially partnered up with 2 other people in St. Louis in my market that are awesome. They're friends, they're rock stars. And it's kind of like you said earlier, like traction, like right person, right seat. Another good book is, what's the other book where they talk about that? I can't think of it off the top of my head. It'll come to me. But anyway, I focus
unique ability or one of those.
Yeah. So I focus on the wholesale. I focus on the marketing efforts. I focus on, running appointments with my acquisition team. I'll either run appointments with them or I'll go run some of my own appointments or I'll just hang out in the office and wait till they have questions and support them. So that's me. That's what I do. And then my other 2 partners, one of them focuses on nothing but rehabs. So whenever we go out and we find that great rehab, again, we said earlier, keep the best, sell the rest.
Right.
So whenever we come across a really, really good property that would be a good rehab, we'll send one of my partners out. He'll kind of review the numbers and decide if it's one that we want to take on or not. So he focuses his time and efforts on running the crews, getting the properties ready to be sold and listed, and then dealing with the agents and all that type of stuff. He does all of it. And then my 3rd partner, he does the rental business. So again, we've outsourced the management, but he's in charge of the rental acquisition, which again, I help him. So as the wholesaler, my job is to get all the leads to come in the door. And then if I get one that looks like a great neighborhood for a great rental, I just kick it over to my partner, Mike. And Mike handles the rental. So he'll say, okay, cool, I'll run the appointment. And if it doesn't end up being a good rental, then he'll just kick it back to me as a wholesale. right? So our goal is to get to 150 rentals, and we want to do it relatively quick, within 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So with that being said, we have to buy basically a rental a week, and we don't always hit that goal, but that's a good goal to have. I mean, 52 weeks in a year, you could get to 150 in 3 years or less if you do that, one a week.
Right.
So his job is to then go find those rentals, put them under contract, deal with the crews as well, different crews for the rental rehabs versus the retail rehabs. But he'll get those rent ready. He'll deal with the inspectors within each city or county. And then he'll turn them over to the property management company. And he also does all the banking side for us too, because we use private money to purchase everything. 100% of what we buy is with private capital.
So not through banks. So it's private capital, and then you're just.
So we have a line of credit that we use, but very rarely. It's kind of more of a backup for us.
I gotcha.
We have about anywhere between 2 and 3 million of private lenders funds that we have access to at any time. So if we need to go buy 5 properties at $100,000 a piece next week, we just reach out to our private lenders. And the beautiful thing with our private lenders, Corey, is they are also real estate investors. Every one of our private lenders, they either have 30 plus rental properties or they have 2 or 3 rehabs going, and they just have excess cash. So it makes it really easy for us.
They need to deploy that cash probably too.
They need to employ, and I lend as well too. I got a couple $100,000 that I also will lend as well. Sometimes
what do you typically get? A couple of points in 10 or 12 or something like that?
Yep, exactly. So our private lenders, we do a couple different scenarios with them, but we actually give them the option on what they'd rather make. So a lot of people don't do it this way, but maybe people listening or watching can learn something. So we actually say, hey, we're willing to pay 10% or 12%. You pick, but there's a catch. If you want 10%, which is lower than 12, we'll happily pay you monthly. So, and one thing to keep in mind is when we borrow money, we borrow purchase and rehab. We get all of it. Okay. It's not 70% of that. No, it's the house is 50, the rehab's 30. I need an $80,000 loan, right? So I'm kind of going off on 2 different topics here, but let me finish the first one. The first one is that all these private lenders are real estate investors, which helps a ton because if we find something that we want to buy, we just send them over pictures of it. Yeah. And then we send them comps. And they'll do a desk review in typically an hour or 2 or less sometimes and give us a thumbs up or the thumbs down. We've only had thumbs down like three times in the last 3 years, which is fine. Maybe the deal didn't look that great, right? But typically the investors say, this looks like a great deal, guys, go get it. And then they'll lend us the money.
So you say either get 10 or 12%, but if you want.
Oh, yeah, and then back to that. So then 10 or 12%. So ideally, we don't want to pay anybody until we refinance.
Right.
Then it's truly no money out of pocket. So we'll borrow all of their money. We'll use it to purchase the property. We'll use it to purchase the repairs and pay for the labor. Right. And then we will refinance, and then we will pay them all of their principal plus the prorated 12% annual or 10% annual. Right. And ideally, we're going to pay them 12% on the back end. So there's no monthly payments. It's all in the rears. And we'll pay a little bit more for that. We'll give them an extra 2%. Now, we never pay points because we've just never been asked to pay points, nor have we ever suggested that we're willing to pay points. But if they were to come to us and say, oh, we got to start charging it, then maybe we would do it. But at this point in time, it's no points. It's 10% if we make monthly payments with the 100% of the principal applied at the last payment, of course. Or it's 12% where we don't make any payments and we give them all of their money back plus interest at the end. And it's kind of funny because we have several investors that we work with. We probably have anywhere between 6 and 8 different private lenders at any time. And these investors will stagger them. Like we don't have anybody that does all 10 or all 12. They typically will do a couple 10s and a couple 12s because they want that monthly income. But they also like to have a little bit higher rate. Now you got to think a lot of these investors, they're lending us money off of their own lines of credit.
Yeah, you're paying on the time. You're paying on time. So whatever they're using on their credit, obviously they're getting charged more, right?
Yeah. So sometimes they like to get the 10% monthly, so that way they don't have to come out of pocket.
They don't have to come out of pocket.
Right. But on the 12% ones, they do got to come out of pocket. They got to make those monthly payments.
Typically, are they like 30 days, 60 days, 45 days, 90 days?
No, it just kind of varies. Like I'd say on average, it's 2 to 3 months on average. You know, sometimes it might be 2 or 3 weeks if it's just like a wholesale that doesn't double close or assigns, and we essentially have to buy it before the buyer can buy it. You know, other times it might be 7 or 8 months if we're doing a big, you know, $300,000 or $400,000 rehab project in a nice part of town.
Yeah.
So it just kind of varies, but we make that clear to them when we're asking for the loan. Again, we'll send them pictures.
How often are you doing a deal that's over 300,000?
We just sold one last week for $525.
Wow. Okay.
So not that much though, Corey. I mean, typically we're buying anywhere between 40,000 and 200,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
In that range. Just because we're in the Midwest, your market.
We're in Oklahoma too. So
yeah, your market's probably not too much different than ours. But yeah, I mean, typically, like sometimes though, we'll come across a property that has a 300 plus purchase price, and it may need anywhere from 80 to 150 grand. And if the numbers look good and we can make 50 or 60K off of it, we'll do it. You know, we could always wholesale that deal for 10 or 15, but if we can make 60 just rehabbing it ourselves, you know, why not?
Do you typically look at that on a rehab where you go, I got to make at least double of what I'm going to make on a wholesale for it to make sense? Or
I think more like triple.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but our average wholesale in St. Louis is low compared to the the national average.
Yeah.
So we're only like our average wholesale is about $6,700. That's one number I do know.
Yeah.
We're at 6,700 on average. Now, have we done wholesales for 80 grand? Of course we have. But we also have wholesales that we'll do for 2,000 or 2,500. So when you average all these out, and I'm taking out the outliers here, right? The average deal that we do, this is more of a median than it is a mean, right? Yeah. But the median number is 6,700. Now I know guys like my buddy that I mentioned earlier, Chris Arnold out of Dallas. His average wholesale fee is 12 to 15,000.
Yeah.
You know? And our market, I don't know if it's just that the values are less here, or that we have more competition, or both. It could be both.
You got some hedge funds out there, dude.
We got some, right. So it's difficult for us to get a 15 or 20K wholesale on average. It doesn't mean that we can't get those. It just means that on average, we're not bringing that kind of wholesale down.
So basically on wholesale, it's like 7, maybe 10,000 on a high, 7,000 on the regular. And then on rehabbing, you need to make at least 21 to 25.
Yeah, our goal is typically 25 on the low end. If we're going to rehab anything, we need to make at least 25. But again, you know, as the prices increase, so do the percentages. So, you know, if we're looking to do something that's, you know, 300 grand in terms of a purchase price,
right,
that's a lot of interest that we're paying on that money.
Yeah.
So at that rate, you know, it's like we need to be making maybe 40 or even 50,000 on that deal.
Yeah.
Just because the risk is higher, you know, so it has to equate.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's good information. Putting all this stuff.
I know this podcast might not be your standard process or flow.
No, this is great. Everyone's learning.
Nuggets in here, man.
It's great. I love it. That's what it's about, learning. What are you most grateful for, David? Let's take it back from the bit to more of a personal side now. What are you most grateful for in your life?
And that's a great question, Corey. I'm glad you asked that. I am most grateful to just have the ability to be grateful, which is kind of a weird way to word it, but I'm a very grateful person, like ultra grateful. So me and my wife,
awareness. You're just
just awareness.
Natural optimist.
Yeah, I think the awareness is a good way to word it. So like, here's a really good example. My wife and I, we've been married a little over a year. We've been together for about 6.
Yeah.
And we've only been in like maybe 3 arguments, or I should say fights. And not a single one of those lasted more than like 2 days. So we have a really good relationship. And I think the reason that we get along so well is because we are both ultra grateful for everything around us, all of our belongings, all of our possessions, all of the friends and family that we have. And I'm not just saying like I'm grateful to have a Model 3 Tesla, which I do, and I love that car. But like, I'm grateful for the little things, guys. I'm grateful for like my running water in my house and electricity, and the fact that I don't have to walk 2 miles to get water, and like the fact that I don't have to worry about like, somebody breaking down my door and like shooting up my house, like I live in a good part of town, and you know what I'm saying? So I'm just grateful for all the little things, Corey. It's maybe not the answer you're looking for, but yeah, I mean, in my opinion, gratitude is the answer to curing depression, right?
Yeah.
So I've always had a joke with my college buddies, like, if we were, dating some girl in college, for example, and she just was just a crazy broad, right?
Yeah.
We always had a joke like, let's book her a one-way flight to like Kenya, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, seriously though, right? Like, let's book them a one-way flight to Kenya, and then we'll be a week behind them, right? And let's see how bad your life is truly compared to some of these other individuals in the world. We are oblivious to it. I'm not, but most people are, right?
Right.
And it's like, if you start comparing yourself to the world as a whole versus just the neighbor. So everyone's heard the saying, keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, the next door neighbor is, getting a new car. I need to get one. Well, that's fine. But if you can take on the ability to compare yourself to the rest of the world that doesn't live in the United States or doesn't live in a nice neighborhood, and they're living on $2 or $3 a day, and they don't have a house, and only 1 in 9 people in the world own a car, right? I own 3 cars.
Right.
It's like 1 in 9 own a car. But it's like, ask yourself right now, how many of the friends that you have in your cell phone that don't own a car? I don't know a single person that doesn't own a car, literally, unless they're under 16, right? But only 1 in 9 people in the whole world own a car.
Right.
So it's like, start comparing yourself to the globe, not just your neighbor. And when you do that,
well, even comparison, David, like to interject for just, I mean, I say it's every single morning. I've been saying it for years and years and years, and it is the number one thing that sets the foundation for the day. And it's, my worst day is someone else's paradise.
Yeah, it's such a true point.
My worst day is someone else's paradise, and just being aware of the things that.
Yeah, so awareness, I think, is the key.
Man, the gratefulness and being aware. I love that, man. I think that you're just the awareness, and you're talking about the fights that you have only lasting 2 days. It's probably because you have this awareness of what in the big scheme of things, this fight that we're having. How important is this thing that we're dealing with? Even though emotionally, it's got some, it's strong emotionally, but in the big picture, whenever you can zoom out, that's when your gratefulness meter, that's when your radar goes out. Most people that are not grateful and that don't have awareness, right, is they live in the focus zone of emotion only. Right. And emotion is one factor that makes us human, that makes us excited, that gives us the ups and downs. But the challenge of living in just the emotional zone only is that it will actually kill you, because your body is not designed to live with that much stress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of going up and down. Whenever you zoom out, that's when the awareness comes, that you realize that you are such a small piece in a 7 billion plus world, right? And then you start looking at yourself like that, where there is so many other people that are going through so many worse situations than you are. We're not even talking about the kids that are getting molested on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. We're not talking about the people that are getting killed and murdered every minute, every day. We're not talking about all of the horrible situations that are going on. We're just talking about, just like you said, maybe going to a hut back and forth in Kenya because you don't have clean water, or maybe, just some struggles that you're going through. Maybe your kids are having to sleep in nets when you go to bed at night because of the fly.
Yeah, Corey, 1.7 billion adults worldwide don't even have a bank account.
Don't you have a bank account, right? Which is one of the reasons blockchain and crypto is making such a big
But I mean, you're
spike.
talking almost 2 billion people. So again, it's just like, to me, it's the awareness factor.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know what? I have a home. I have a wife who loves me and I love her. I have a car. I have a job. And one of the things too that my wife and me, I've rubbed off on her a lot because she's awesome. But one of the things that you know, we really pride ourselves on is that the things that you say and the things that you think affect your mood, right?
Yeah.
So we wake up in the morning and we're talking to each other. We make an
effort, like a concerted effort to do something.
Yeah, there you go. So we make an effort to make sure that the words that we choose are the right words. So here's a perfect example. Hey, sweetie, what are you doing today? I get to go to work. It's not I have to go to work. It's I get to go to work today. Oh, that's great. I get to go to my work today too. What time are you getting off this afternoon? You know, do you want to maybe meet at the park? Great. But we don't use words like I have to anymore. It's I get to. Okay? And when you start changing your mindset on stuff like that, the way you feel every day also starts to change. So, you know, words are powerful. And just making little tweaks like that for whatever reason can really change a lot in your life. It can change your attitude. It can change your mindset. It can change your perspective. You know, and it ultimately brings gratitude into your life whenever you have a positive outlook on certain things.
There is a great app that you should download. I'm going to encourage you to download. Okay. Actually, just do it. I'm not encouraging you to do it. Okay. It's called Think Up. Think Up. Incredible app, man, that every day I listen to. And it is kind of affirmations. But the cool thing about it is that you can record it in your own voice. So I don't know if I've ever done this before, but I'm going to do it really quick so you just kind of hear one.
Yeah, let's hear it.
But this is my own voice I listen to every single morning. Okay. And usually I'll put these in my eye. I got this, what are these things called? What are these? The podcast, the ear things, right?
Yeah, earbuds or whatever.
Yep. So I put those in the sauna, which is great because you're just chilling. You're doing nothing besides just sitting there thinking. You can't really talk to anybody, really. I mean, I don't. So I'm just sitting there just listening to this, right? And I record these things in my own voice, and you can choose a music behind it. So I'll let you hear it.
Remember, be a servant.
Oh, this is great.
I am worthy of my God's love. The moment I accept responsibility for everything in my life is the moment I gain the power to change anything in my life. Lord, strengthen my faith to take you at your word. Rise within me that I may boldly declare your truth.
Dude, it is it's things that you can record of these affirmations, but you can go in and see other people's affirmations and record it in your own voice. So you can say things that are in your own voice that mean something to you. And it is incredibly powerful, dude. And it gets you set up for the mindset of strength, right? And being aware and being thankful and grateful. Alongside, you know, this bracelet I wear every single day. And the reason I post in the Grateful Project, today's date, 1744, posting a reason to be grateful every single day. Dude, I think gratefulness is one of the biggest factors of successful people. Whenever you really dial it back, when you really get zoom out,
I agree.
Grateful people, dude. They are incredibly grateful, and they do big things in life because they're grateful.
I agree. 100%. Corey, I'm with you all the way. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Man,
but yeah, man, I'm going to check that out. That app's called Think Up.
Think Up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to look into that.
It's awesome. So you obviously train and you coach, and how important has that been to your success, and would you recommend it for others?
Are you talking about real estate investing or?
Yeah, for wholesaling and for your coaching program.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had several coaches. I've spent over $100,000 on education, and that doesn't even include masterminds. Everyone always includes their masterminds into that figure. I'm talking about just hiring coaches, buying books, buying courses, going to seminars. That's education in my eyes. I've spent over 6 figures on that. And, the other day somebody was asking me, is there value in that? And my response was 100%. Every single coach that I've hired has provided me with value.
Yeah.
And, I have not had a single regret in my entire life from hiring somebody to teach me and help me, grow my business or even myself. Like, I mean, right at this moment, I have, I always have at least 2 coaches, if not 3. So I have a personal trainer, which is a fitness coach.
Yep.
I always have some sort of a real estate coach. And then I have a CPA who I pay additional to get on the phone with me once a month and help me tax plan.
So you do have so you have not a fractional CFO, but a CPA. Can you talk about that really quick? Like, is that an outsourced thing, or is it somebody that's local, or?
No, it's a local person. I've used her in the past for several of my other businesses. And we have a bookkeeper in our office. It's one person I forgot to mention in my team. We have a bookkeeper as well here. I'll have to add that to the notes here.
Yep.
But we also have a CPA just for the purpose of filing the taxes, overlooking everything, making sure we're doing everything right. Mm-hmm. But also she's very helpful in saving us money. She finds things that we can essentially write off that we may not know about. So I hop on the phone with her at least once a month for an hour or 2. And just talk about, any changes in the tax laws, what I can be doing to pay less taxes. So here's the thing about taxes, Corey. I'm kind of a nerd. But the thing about taxes is there's like 60,000 pages of tax code. All right. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much tax code there is, right?
Yeah.
But there's only like 2 or 3 pages that tells you when, how, and where to pay.
Yeah.
Right? Everything else is essentially how to not pay.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, there's literally there's a tax bracket, there's the date, there's a website or forms online, where to mail those, where to go online and do this.
Yeah.
Right. But that's it. There's only a couple pages in the tax code that actually says when, how, where, and why. Right. Everything else. So, I mean, you're talking literally 99.9% of the tax code is ways to not pay or deter or defer paying, or not at all, right? And here's the reason why. I struggle with this for a long time, but I understand it very, very, very well now. So laws are written by rich people to protect rich people. When's the last time that you saw somebody, in Congress writing laws that wasn't wealthy, right? Like, somebody doesn't go from working at Jack in the Box to being a senator.
Right.
All right. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So laws are written by wealthy people to protect wealthy people. So once you start to understand that, you will have a whole new outlook on taxation. So like, I no longer fear taxation. All right. Because I take effective steps every day to know how to avoid paying it or paying the least amount possible, right? And that's another reasons why I like real estate. As we all know, there's so many advantages to real estate investing due to the taxation laws. Right. So yeah, that's another one of my mentors that I have, or my coaches. And then I don't have any paid coaching right now that I'm doing with other individuals. However, I'm doing a lot of swaps. So I have a guy that's coaching me on the radio, and I trade him.
That's cool. I like
other aspects. So he's coaching me, I'm coaching him.
Right.
I
love that, man. That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
So I'm on the radio now, doing radio advertising.
How's that going for your radio advertising?
It's going good, man. It's going good. We're spending about $1,000 a week right now. We've been on for about 3 months. We're on 2 different stations that each air between 2 and 3 times a day each on each station. So we're on the air anywhere from 4 to 6 times a day for a minute every day. And it's going really well. And the reason that I kind of wanted to get into it is because some people I know out there in this space, they have transitioned into only radio or only billboards or only television or only one of those 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Billboards.
So in my business, we're doing bandit signs. We're sending out direct mail, which could be to 50 different lists, right? We're cold calling. We're cold texting. We're using RVMs and voice blasting services. Like we're doing 100 things in terms of marketing. We're networking. We're going to RIAs. I mean, we're doing everything, right? But once I can get to the point where I can scale my radio to maybe 15 or 20,000 a month, I no longer have to manage anything.
Right.
It's one thing that I'm doing and one thing only. And it's actually kind of cool because it also carries a stigma behind it of, maybe stigma is the wrong word, but it's like if you're on the radio, you're legit. Or if you're on television, you're legit.
Yeah, we're doing some changes. I mean, we're doing a couple of tests too in Oklahoma on TV. So the cool thing is people don't realize this, but you actually write the questions for the interview on TV.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. So for your book right now, dude, that would be great exposure for you. For you having a book and be able to go on there and talk about the challenges or whatever, and then say, by the way, if you want my book, I have a book. I'll give it to you for free. Just pay the shipping and handling, and then tell them to do that. And that have a call to action link or a phone number. So the cool thing about the radio is that they have a phone number that's actually capturing now email addresses, capturing now the information that people call in. So no, I'm with you, man. I love that. But one of the things that I wanted to do with the radio, obviously I wanted to do more marketing, right? Yeah. But as time goes on, I want to do more radio marketing and less of everything else. Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time weekly on dealing with what campaign am I going to be working on? What lists do I need to buy? Yeah. What mailer am I going to send? How often am I going to send that? When's the last time I sent the last couple? And when do I need to resend these? And what part of town am I doing bandit signs in? What part of town do I need to focus on? Like, it's just a lot to do, right? And it's okay. That's the business that I'm in. I'm okay with that. But maybe over the next, 6 months to a year, I'd really like to transition away from all those other sources and then just be spending 15 to 20,000 a month on the radio. That's what I'm spending right now, about 15 grand a month on my marketing. Yeah. But that's scattered over about 15 different things.
Different channels, yeah.
Yeah. And I'd ideally like to close everything down, even AdWords eventually, and just be on the radio because it brings a sense of legitimacy to you. If you can get on 5 or 6 or 7 stations and you're aired a couple times a day, I mean, you're basically reaching every single person that's on those lists anyway that you're mailing to. I mean, who doesn't listen to the radio?
Yeah.
You're hitting everybody. And like, there's only so many lists you can buy, right? Yeah. And like with the radio, you're hitting millions of people. So I don't know. I just like the bigger media personally. And again, the ultimate goal here is twofold. One is to just, become better at business and bigger, of course, but 2, be able to manage less.
Yeah, I think a lot of great points. And basically it comes back to simplification and doing less and getting more results happening. And I'm with you there, man. I like a lean and mean. You and I have a lot of similar things. We have do a lot of stuff the same way.
We do. We have a ton of stuff.
Actually, interesting from our past. A lot of it's similar. So I relate a lot with what you're saying.
David, and really the radio, I'll share a quick KPI with you guys. My radio is costing me roughly about $50 a phone call right now. Whereas I'm also doing AdWords, for example, and my cost per lead on AdWords is about $97 per lead. So I'm getting leads at 50% of the cost on the radio that I am versus doing traditional AdWords. Yeah. And my mailers are even worse than that. I think I'm probably spending $150 on mailers to get a lead.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it, man. So you got to basically look at where's the best bang for your buck. And I think Dan Merrill, as you're seeing a lot of stuff when Dan's moving to radio, a lot of other folks are moving to radio. So the medium definitely works. But it's not one thing. I don't know if you just go right into that medium. Maybe you do, but I haven't heard a whole lot of people just go right into doing radio because I do think that you need to have a foundation to set up.
No, I'm with you. I absolutely. I don't recommend anybody that's brand new doing it.
Right into radio.
Yeah, I mean, we have 4 years of experience at this point. You know, we've built a good name for our business, so on and so forth.
You're expanding that brand.
Exactly.
Well, cool. Hey, let's talk about your book on where people can go. And David, I know you got to go. I think for the time. What's a place people can go get your book, and how can we reach out to you? You shared some golden nuggets today, man. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on the show, Corey. So the book is called The Ultimate Guide to Wholesaling Real Estate. Learn how to buy properties at a discount. I wrote this with my business partner, Mike Slane. You can see photos of us here on the back. Yeah. The book is exclusively sold on Amazon just because it's easy. Again, it's simple. I think the current price is like maybe $15.99, $16, something along those lines. It may change over time. So if you're listening to this episode, 2 or 3 years down the road, that price might be different. But you can find the book on Amazon. Again, it's called The Ultimate Guide to Wholesaling Real Estate. There is a free online course that we include with the book. You don't necessarily have to buy the book to get access to the course, but we obviously plug the course in the book. And the domain for the course is freewholesalecourse.com.
Freewholesalecourse.com. Cool. Great name. Easy to remember. Put this in the show notes. Awesome. What's the way to get in touch with you on social media, my man?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Those are kind of the two that I like to roll with. I don't really do the whole Twitter thing. Yep. Facebook, it's Facebook, just David Dodge. You should be able to find me on there. Instagram, David A. Dodge.
David A. Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. David, thank you so much for being on here. I appreciate everything you shared. I'm looking forward to getting all this on the show notes and lots of great nuggets on here. Thanks for being so open and serving others on here, man. Appreciate you.
You got it, Corey. Thanks for having me, brother.
Awesome, man. Have a great, phenomenal day. Download Think Up. I think you'll love that.
Yep.
And thank you for taking the time. Thank you for listening. And I hope you got some great nuggets from David. We're going to bring on some amazing guests just like David to give you the best information, the Profit Master strategies that you need to crush it. Thank you again. Remember, be a servant. Bye now.
Hi, this is Corey Boatwright, and I have a quick question for you. What is the fastest way to reach your goals? Is it to work harder, work smarter, use system and processes, or hire rock star employees? What about just making more money? Actually, it's none of that. Those things are a byproduct of the one success component that every real estate investor or business owner that I know all have in common. And the answer is clarity. Complete laser focus on what you want, why you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it. So where do you find clarity? By hiring a coach and mentor. Now, could you reach the level of success that you want to achieve by doing this all on your own? The Lone Ranger. Well, maybe, but do you think it would take you double or even triple the time to achieve it compared to hiring a coach and mentor to help guide your path,
provide proven instruction with a tailored blueprint that you could follow for building a real estate business that supports your lifestyle and helps you reach your financial and personal goals? Absolutely. Here's the fact. Time isn't recyclable. So I would like to ask you to make good use of it and extend a personal invitation for you to book a phone coaching strategy session by going to callwithcorey.com. That's callwithcorey, Corey spelled CORY.com. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions on that page, and we're going to go over and see how we can make sure that your business is on path to reach the goals that you want this year. So go to callwithcorey.com, that's CORY, and book your phone coaching strategy session today. Remember, be a servant, and I'll see you on there.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quickstart Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.